Hey there, it's me. Today, we are going to learn how God created Adam and Eve in the beginning. Let's learn this important Bible story from Genesis chapter 2. After God created the world, He made a beautiful garden called Eden. It was a perfect place filled with lots of trees, beautiful flowers, and sparkling rivers. God wanted it to be a perfect home for the first humans, Adam and Eve. So let's see how God gave them life and taught them about love. Once upon a time in the beginning, when the earth was empty and no one was living on it, God looked at everything He had made and said, "It is good." But He knew that it would be even better if there were people living on the earth who could love and care for everything He had created. So God decided to make a man and a woman to live in the garden. But where did God create these first humans? He made them in a special place called Eden, which was a beautiful garden full of different kinds of trees, sparkling rivers, and beautiful flowers. In this garden, the soil was soft and the weather was always perfect. It was a wonderful place for humans to live because there was no pain or sorrow. And there was also plenty of food to eat, and it was delicious. But before making the first human, God prepared everything he would need to live a happy life. First, God made animals. There were birds that sang beautiful songs, and some animals that could talk, like snakes and other creatures that moved on the land, in the water, and in the air. God made many different kinds of animals so that the person He was about to make would not feel lonely. Then God thought about what else His new creation might need. As He walked through the garden, He noticed that there were no people to take care of the beautiful plants and animals. No one would be there to enjoy the garden or appreciate its beauty. God wanted someone special to live in this paradise and care for everything He had created. So He decided to make a man and a woman who would be able to talk to Him and understand His voice. But before making this man and woman, God gathered all the animals to Him and asked them, "This is not good. I have made everything, but there is no one here to take care of it. There should be someone to appreciate all this hard work that I have done." The animals thought for a moment, but none of them could come up with an answer. Finally, the snake spoke up and said, "Why don't you make someone from the ground? That way they will be part of the earth and respect all living things." God liked this idea, so He used dust from the ground to make the first human. When God finished making the man, He breathed life into him, and the man became a living being. God named this first man Adam, meaning man or human. Then God looked at Adam and realized that he needed someone to love and care for him. God didn't want Adam to be alone, so He decided to make a companion for him. God took one of Adam's ribs and closed the place where it had been. Then He made it into a woman and brought her to Adam. When Adam saw the woman, he was overjoyed and called her Eve, meaning life. Adam and Eve were very happy to meet each other because now they wouldn't be alone in the garden. They could explore the beautiful plants and animals together and enjoy the wonders of God's creation side by side. As Adam and Eve walked through the garden, they saw all the beautiful trees and flowers, and they felt a strong desire to protect and care for this wonderful place. God had created everything for them to enjoy, and they were grateful for His generosity. Adam and Eve knew that they had a special responsibility to take care of the garden and all the living things in it. They promised to love and cherish this paradise, to appreciate its beauty, and to protect it from any harm. God was pleased with Adam and Eve. He saw that they understood the importance of taking care of His creation. So He gave them a special task. He told them to take fruit from the trees in the garden and eat them. God wanted them to enjoy the garden and use its resources wisely. He wanted them to be good stewards of His creation. Adam and Eve spent their days exploring the garden. They discovered different kinds of fruits and vegetables, and they learned how to harvest them. They also saw all the animals, and they were amazed by their beauty and diversity. Adam and Eve named the animals because they wanted to connect with them and appreciate each one's unique qualities. They realized that God had made each animal for a special purpose, and they respected their role in the ecosystem. As the sun set each day, Adam and Eve would gather in the garden. They would share stories about their discoveries and express their gratitude to God for the gift of the garden. They knew that they were blessed to live in such a beautiful place, and they wanted to honor God by taking good care of it. However, in the middle of the garden, God had planted something very special, a tree with leaves that were both beautiful and delicious. It was called the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God had given Adam and Eve permission to eat from most of the trees in the garden, but he had told them not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God wanted them to trust him and obey his simple command. One day, a serpent, which was the cleverest of all the animals that God had made, approached Eve. The serpent asked her why she wasn't eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which God had told them not to touch. Eve replied that God had forbidden them to eat from that tree because he wanted them to obey him. The serpent argued that eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil would make Eve and Adam wise and like God. It tempted Eve to imagine how amazing it would be to be like God, knowing everything and having all the answers. Eve started to think that maybe God wasn't being fair by keeping this knowledge away from them. She looked at the fruit of the tree, and it looked so delicious that she couldn't resist. She reached out, took the fruit, and ate it. When Eve ate the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, she realized that she had disobeyed God's command. She was supposed to trust him and obey him, but she had chosen to listen to the serpent instead. Eve felt remorse and knew that she had made a mistake. After Eve ate the fruit, she gave some to Adam, who was with her. When Adam ate the fruit, he too realized that he had disobeyed God's command. He had known that it was wrong, but he chose to listen to Eve instead of obeying God directly. Adam and Eve felt ashamed because they had broken God's trust. They had chosen disobedience over faith, and they knew that they had made a big mistake. But despite their disobedience, God still loved Adam and Eve. He didn't want to punish them harshly, but he wanted them to learn from their mistakes. God talked to Adam and Eve and asked them why they had disobeyed his command. They confessed their sin and asked for forgiveness. God forgave them, knowing that they didn't mean to disobey him. However, God knew that life would not be the same again. There would be challenges and difficulties. To help Adam and Eve prepare for the future, God gave them some important instructions. He told them that Eve would experience pain when giving birth to children, and that Adam's life would become difficult because of the thorns and thistles that would grow from the ground. These instructions were not meant to be a punishment, but a way to help Adam and Eve understand that life would change and they needed to be prepared. God then drove Adam and Eve out of the garden. He didn't want them to stay in paradise because they weren't innocent anymore and they weren't ready to live in such a pure place. But before leaving, God made a promise. He told them that one day a Savior would come from their descendants who would redeem them and restore their relationship with God. This promise gave Adam and Eve hope that one day everything would be made right again. And that is the story of how God created the first humans, Adam and Eve, in the beginning. What did you like best about this story? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, God made humans special. We should care for his creation and each other. See you next time.